Yeah, good afternoon. Today topic is about class and objects. And firstly, class and objects. Class and objects are the two main aspects of object-oriented programming. In fact, a class is the basic built-in block in Python. A class creates a new type and object is an instance of the class. Classes provide a blueprint or a template using which objects are created. In fact, in Python, everything is an object or an instance of some class. For example, all integer variables that we define in our program are actually instances of class int. For example, if we take a is equal to 10, a is a variable and 10 is an integer which is assigned to a variable. And similarly, all string variables and objects of class string. Here we are defining a classes, and Python has a very simple syntax of defining a class. This syntax can be given as class and a class name. For example, if we take class as a student and a list of statements to end. And next, from the syntax, we see that the class definition is quite similar to function definition. It starts with a keyword class followed by the class name and a colon. The statement in the definition can be any of these sequential instructions and the decision control statements, loop statements, and can even include function definitions. Variables defined in a class are called as class variables, and functions defined inside a class are called class methods. And look about this class variables and class methods are together known as the class members. The class members can be accessed through class objects, and the class methods can have access to all the data contained in the instance of the objects. And the class definitions can appear anywhere in the program, but they are usually written near the beginning of the program after the import statements. Note that when a class definition is entered in a new namespace that is created and is used as the local space, therefore all assignments to local variables go into this new namespace. And here is the creating objects. Once a class is defined, the next job is to create an object or create an instance of that class. The object can then access class variables and class methods using the dot operator. And the syntax is created as given below. The object name is equal to class name. Creating an object or instance of a class is known as class instantiation. From the syntax, we can see that class instantiation uses function notation. Using the syntax, and empty object of a class is created. Thus, we can see that in Python, to create a new object called a class as if it were a function. The syntax for accessing a class member through the class object is, here the syntax is given as below. Object name dot a class name, class member name. And next, here is the example program to access class variable using class object. And here is the syntax class name mentioned below. And here class name is abc, and class variable is variable is equal to 10, and object is equal to abc, that is the object creation. And print object dot var, this is the class variable is accessed using the class object, and this is the output 10. And in the above program, you have defined a class abc which has a variable var having a value of 10. The object of the class is created and used to access the class variable using the dot operator. Thus, we can think of a class as a factory of making objects. And next, data abstraction and hiding through classes. This data abstraction refers to the process by which data and functions are defined in such a way that only essential data errors are provided to the outside world, and the implementation details are hidden. In Python and other object-oriented programming languages, classes provide methods to the outside world to provide the functionality of the objects or to manipulate the object's data. And any entity outside the world does not know about the implementation details of the class or that method. Data encapsulation, also called data hiding, organizes the data and methods into a structure that prevents data access by any function that is not specified in the class. This ensures the integrity of the data contained in the object. And encapsulation defines different access levels for data variables and members functions of the class. And these access levels specifies the access rights. For example, any data or a function with access level public can be accessed by any function belong to any class. For example, if you write a program, that is, if it is a public variable, it can be accessed throughout the program. And if it is any private variable, it is belong to specific function or a specific block of code. That is, we are calling as to any class. This is the lowest level of data protection. Any data or function with access level private can be accessed only by the classes in which it is declared, that is mean. This is the highest level of data protection. In Python, private variables are prefixed with a double underscore. For example, double underscore var, that is variable, is a private variable of that class. And this is a class method and self argument. Class methods or functions defined in the class are exactly same as ordinary functions that we have been defining so far, with just one small difference. Class methods must have the first argument name as self. This is the first argument that is added to the beginning of the parameter list. Moreover, you do not pass a value for this parameter. When you call the method, Python provides its value automatically. The self argument refers to the object itself. This is the object that has called the method. This means that even if a method takes the no arguments, it should be defined to accept the self. For example, if we take a add function, x comma y are the parameters in which it accepts. Before that, it is trying to accept the self, that is it mean. Similarly, a function defined to accept one parameter will actually take two self and the parameters and so on. Since the class methods uses self, they require an object or instance of the class to be used. For this reason, they are often referred to as instance methods. Consider this program given below, which has one class variable and one class method, and observe the class method accepts no values but still has a self as an argument. Both the class members are accessed through the object of the class. Here is the program to access class members using the class object. Here we are taking the class and a class name as ABC and variable is equal to 10, and we are defining display, and it is passing a parameter which it is accepting self, and we are printing the statement in class method, and we are creating an object is equal to ABC and print object dot var, and we are displaying the display, and here is the output, that is 10 and in class method. And this is another init method that class constructed. It is a very important init method and has a special significance in Python classes. The init method is automatically executed when an object of a class is created. The method is useful to initialize the variables of the class is created. For example, if you write a program to illustrate the use of init method, class ABC, we are defining init self comma value, and self is automatically accepted, and print in class method self dot val is equal to val, and printing the value is we are calling the value, and we are creating an object and we are passing the parameter 10, that is output in class method, the value is 10. And here is the class variables and object variables. A class can have variables defined in it. Basically, these variables are of two types. That is class variables and object variables. Class variables are owned by class, and object variables are owned by each object, in which we can create many number of objects in a class. If a class has n objects, then there will be n separate copies of the object variable, as each object will have its own object variable. The object variable is not shared between objects. A change method to the object variable by one object will not be reflected in other objects. If a class has one class variable, then there will be one copy only for that variable. All the objects of that class will share the class variable. Since there exists a single copy of the class variable, any change made to the class variable by an object will be reflected in all the other objects in a class. And here is the example program to differentiate between a class and object variable. Here we are defining class ABC, and class variable is class underscore var is equal to 0, and we defining init method. And here we are starting with init method as a double underscore, and we are passing the self argument, and second argument is object variable, and abc dot variable is equal to, we are incrementing the statement, and we are creating object variable self dot object variable is equal to object variable, and we are printing the object variable in which we are calling in the print statement, and print the variable of the class variable. We are calling the class method, and object 1, we are creating any number of objects, and we are passing 10, 20, and 30. Here is the output. First, the object value is 10. That is, we have created first object as 10, and we are passing the value 10. The variable of the class variable is 1, and second one is the we are passing value as 20. The variable of the class variable is 2, and the object value is 30. The variable of the class variable is 3, and in the above program, you have a class variable class where which is shared by all three objects of the class, and it is initialized to 0, and each time an object is created, the class var is incremented by 1. That is, here we can see the object value is 10 firstly, and the variable of the class variable is 1, and here we are assigning abc dot class variable plus is equal to 1. That is, every time it is incrementing by 1, and here we are that is incremented by 1 means that is the first time the object value is 10, the increment is 1, and object value is 20, that is increment is 2, and object value is 30, that is increment is 3. That is, we can, since the variable is shared by all objects, changes made to class var by one object is reflected in other objects as well. Note that a class variable is accessed using the class name only. That is, here we are accessing object 1 is equal to ABC of 10. That is, it is accessing using the class name, that is class name, by the dot operator as the variable belongs to the class. Then we have object variable which is unique for every object. When an object is created and the init method is called, the object variable is initialized. The object variable belongs to only a particular object, and here we can see that abc dot class variable, that is, we are calling the class variable with the help of the class name, and dot operator is used in the print statement, second print statement, that is the print statement the variable of the class variable is, and we can separated by comma, and abc dot class variable. That is coming to conclusion, that is, we have object variable which is very unique for every object. When an object is created and the init method is called, the object variable is initialized, and the object variable belongs to only a particular object. And thank you for